Why do I feel so empty? That's the one thing I keep going back to, but I don't think I'm alone in that. I don't know if this has anything to do with our generation or the world that we live in today, but I do know that emptiness and lack of purpose is universal in one way or another. I guess not many of us know why we were put here on Earth, and some find it easier to simply not dwell on the question too much because we fear the inability to ever finding a coherent answer. But is avoiding the problem ever going to solve it? I personally am not okay with giving up before even getting started on the search. And in a way, I guess, perhaps that comes from my desperation to find an answer. In any way, I dwelled on the question for a really long time, and along with all the things that I still don't have the answers to, I managed to understand one thing. Purpose is obviously something that's individual, and in no way can I ever help anyone find theirs. But at the same time, there's also something that's universal about purpose. Its essence. Purpose and the feeling thereof comes from feeling like the protagonist of your story and life, an active element. And that's where we get lost. I mean, how can we write our stories when we don't even know what genre it is? But did Harry Potter know what he was getting himself into when he first came to Hogwarts? I mean, it's debatable, but I think he just lived. He was writing his story before he was ever conscious enough to understand it. Understanding is something that comes to us in hindsight, and therefore we must let it go until it comes to us in its own time. In the meantime, we must lead our lives. And by that I mean just actively guided in any way at all. We start feeling empty when we become a passive element, an observer, a reactor, and thus spectatorship is one of the biggest causes of emptiness. It might seem obvious, but it's really easy to fall into becoming a passive element of your life. And I mean, why shouldn't it be? Passivity is easy, passivity is safe, and it's our human instinct to find the easiest way out. But is the easiest way out of life really what we're after? Is that really what we're trying to find? You are, of course, more than welcome to have your own opinion on the matter. But regardless, passivity is something that is visible in many aspects of our lives, our societies even. And one of those is our use of social media. In no way am I here to ignore the obvious benefits of social media because, I mean, frankly, in my own personal life, I wouldn't be able to stay in touch with half of my close friends if it wasn't for social media. But I do think that the way we interact with it and the way we engage with the content can quickly become toxic, at least in my experience. So this is how I used to live my life. I would come home and I would go on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and basically any entertaining platform that my phone had to offer. I would watch one thing, and before I knew it, the day was over. Then another day would come, and the same thing would happen, over and over again. When I wasn't watching others instead of living my life, I was posting instead of living my life. And mind you, both the things that I consumed and the things that I put out were objectively pointless. I wasn't progressing, I wasn't finding particular inspiration, but even if I was still caught in this cycle of living my life consuming. I would watch snippets of other people's lives and I would release my own snippets. You get stuck in this cycle forgetting to live. And instead of experiencing my life, I would be making memories through Snapchat. And assumingly, that's also what the people I would follow would also do. We're all stuck in this consumerist cycle. Now, before I start to sound like I'm from another century, I want to point out that I genuinely believe that consumption is something necessary in our lives. We live our life imitating others. That's how we learn to speak, that's how we learn to talk. We copy our peers, our parents, and that's how we become the person that we are. That's how we become a human being. And in fact, social media at times has offered me great inspiration and great insight into different ideas, thoughts, and perspectives. So I genuinely believe that there are benefits that we must keep in our lives from it. However, only consuming leads to passively living, leads to the feeling of emptiness and the lack of purpose. I personally don't see a difference between consumption and inspiration. After all, you can be inspired all you want, but it is what you do with your ideas and your inspiration that's going to matter. Just like consumption, inspiration is not living. It's only the basic ingredient of the soup that's life. So I think if we ever want to find purpose, we must do something. There's no limit to what doing something can mean. It can be creating something, or it can simply mean going out and playing football. Doing something means just doing anything, but doing it actively. Go on a walk, make yourself a good breakfast, do anything, but do it actively. Make your life something extraordinary in the smallest of ways. That's what I'm trying to do. And trust me, parties are not the highlight of your life. At least they shouldn't be. There's so much more about yourself and your life that you still haven't discovered. So, go search.